The moving truck pulled away from the curb, leaving Andrew and Anthony standing in front of their new home. The two-story house with its fresh blue paint looked nice enough, but it wasn't home yet. Not like their old neighborhood in the city where everyone knew them, where they'd grown up for 16 years. "What do you think?" their mother asked, putting her arms around both boys' shoulders. Dr. Olivia Wilson had that hopeful look in her eyes that made the twins push aside their own doubts. "It's bigger than our apartment," Anthony said with a small smile. "And quieter," Andrew added, looking down the peaceful suburban street lined with trees just starting to show their fall colors. The truth was, they were worried. Being the new kids was hard enough. Being the only black kids in a mostly white town added another layer of challenge they weren't looking forward to. But their mom's new job as head surgeon at Westlake Memorial Hospital was too good to pass up. "Let's get these boxes inside," their mother said, checking her watch. "I want to get most of the kitchen unpacked before dinner." The twins exchanged a glance, that silent communication that only identical twins seem to master. Without words, they agreed, make the best of it for Mom's sake. Later that evening, after pizza on paper plates surrounded by moving boxes, the twins slipped down to the basement. Their mother had specifically chosen this house because the finished basement gave them space to continue their training. "Ready?" Andrew asked, unrolling the exercise mats they'd brought from their old place. Anthony nodded, already stretching his arms. Sensei Wong would be disappointed if we missed a day. The twins had been training in martial arts since they were 6 years old. What started as their grandfather's suggestion to help them focus their endless energy had become a central part of their lives. 10 years of dedication had paid off just 2 months ago when both brothers earned their black belts. As they moved through their familiar routine, their bodies flowing from one position to the next, the stress of the move melted away. First the basic forms, then more complex sequences. Their movements mirrored each other's perfectly, as if they were reflections. "Remember what Grandpa said when we started?" Anthony asked between sets. Andrew smiled. "True strength is knowing when not to fight." "And true wisdom is knowing when you must," Anthony finished. Their grandfather had been the one to first take them to Sensei Wong's dojo after school. He'd been gone for 3 years now, but they kept his teachings alive through their practice. After an hour of training, they sat cross-legged on the mats, eyes closed in meditation. Another habit from their training. 5 minutes of quiet to center themselves before facing whatever came next. "First day tomorrow," Andrew said finally, opening his eyes. "Junior year at a new school," Anthony added with a sigh. "Think they'll be able to tell us apart?" "They never can at first," Andrew laughed. Despite being identical, the twins had subtle differences. Anthony's voice was slightly deeper. Andrew had a small scar above his right eyebrow from a childhood accident. But new people always mix them up. That night, Andrew lay awake in his new bedroom, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the house. Their mother had decided not to tell anyone at their new school about their martial arts achievements. "Let people get to know you first," she'd suggested. "You're more than your black belts." She was right, of course. They were honor roll students. Anthony played guitar. Andrew loved photography. They had dreams of college. Anthony thinking about engineering. Andrew considering medicine like their mom. But their training had shaped them in ways that went beyond physical strength. It had taught them discipline, respect, and most importantly, restraint. As Sensei Wong often reminded them, the greatest victory is the battle not fought. Tomorrow, they would walk into Westlake High School as the new kids, keeping their abilities private. They didn't know yet about the challenges waiting for them, or that their years of training would soon be tested in ways they never expected. For now, they were just two brothers trying to sleep in an unfamiliar house, hoping to find their place in this new world. Morning came too quickly. Their mother knocked on their doors at 6:30, already dressed in her scrubs for her first day at the hospital. "Ready for this?" she asked as they ate breakfast. Andrew and Anthony looked at each other, then back at their mother. "Ready," they said in unison, not knowing what the day would bring. 3 weeks into the school year, Andrew and Anthony had settled into a routine at Westlake High. Wake up, go to class, eat lunch together, finish the day, and head home. They weren't making many friends, but they weren't making enemies either, at least that's what they thought. The twins sat at their usual lunch table near the back of the cafeteria. Anthony unwrapped his sandwich while Andrew opened his math textbook. "Quiz next period," Andrew reminded his brother. "I know," Anthony sighed. "The formulas keep getting mixed up in my head." A shadow fell across their table. Looking up, they saw a tall student with short blonde hair standing over them. Ryan Thompson was a senior, captain of the football team, and someone the twins had learned to avoid within their first few days. "You're in our spot," Ryan said, 4 other boys standing behind him. Andrew glanced around the half-empty cafeteria. "There are plenty of open tables." Ryan's eyes narrowed. "I said you're in our spot." The twins exchanged a quick look. It wasn't worth the trouble. They started packing up their things when a tray slammed down next to them. "They were here first," said a girl with curly hair and glasses, "and I was just joining them." The twins had seen her in their English class, Lily Chen, who always had her hand up with the right answer. Ryan leaned closer to the twins. "You should teach your friend some manners," he muttered, then added something under his breath that made his friends laugh. Andrew didn't quite catch the words, but Anthony's jaw tightened. He'd heard. "Just ignore them," Andrew whispered as Ryan and his friends moved to another table. "Hey, I'm Lily," the girl said once the boys have left. "We have Rosenberg's class together." "Thanks for that," Anthony said. "I'm Anthony, this is Andrew." "I know," Lily smiled. "You guys are kind of hard to miss." It was true. In a school where diversity meant having a few Latino and Asian students, 2 black twins stood out. "Those guys bother you before?" Lily asked, nodding toward Ryan's table. "Nothing we can't handle," Andrew said, though the encounter had left him uneasy. The bell rang, ending lunch. As they gathered their things, Lily pointed to Anthony's phone case with its martial arts logo. "You guys do karate or something?" "Something like that," Anthony answered with a small smile. After school, the twins walked home together, taking the route through the park. They were discussing their math quiz when they noticed Ryan and 2 of his friends walking behind them. "Just keep moving," Andrew murmured. But the footsteps behind them sped up. "Hey, new kids," Ryan called out. "We need to talk about how things work around here." The twins stopped and turned. 10 years of martial arts training had taught them to face trouble head-on, even if they hoped to avoid it. "What do you want?" Andrew asked calmly. Ryan stepped closer. "Just making sure you understand that some people don't really belong here." Anthony felt his hands curling into fists. Andrew noticed and subtly shook his head. "We're just trying to get through school like everyone else," Andrew said. "That's not how it works," one of Ryan's friends chimed in. "There's a natural order to things." The implied meaning hung in the air. The twins had heard similar things before, though usually not so directly. "We don't want trouble," Andrew said, using the calming techniques their sensei had taught them. Ryan stepped even closer. "Funny thing is, trouble has a way of finding people who don't fit in." For a tense moment, no one spoke. Then a jogger turned onto the path, breaking the standoff. Ryan backed away. "See you around," he said with a smirk that made it sound like a threat. As the twins continued home, they walked in silence for several minutes. "We could have handled them," Anthony finally said. "That's not what Sensei taught us," Andrew reminded him. "Fighting is the last resort." "I know," Anthony sighed. "But I'm tired of people thinking they can talk to us that way." When they got home, their mother was still at the hospital. On the refrigerator, her note reminded them she'd be working late again. The twins retreated to the basement for their daily practice. As they moved through their forms, Anthony's movements were sharper than usual, fueled by frustration. "We're going to have to deal with them eventually," he said between sequences. Andrew nodded. "But we'll do it the right way." Neither twin realized that what had started today was only the beginning. Ryan and his friends had found their targets, and things were about to get much worse at Westlake High. The track coach blew his whistle as Andrew crossed the finish line first, with Anthony just 2 steps behind. Several students watching from the bleachers clapped politely, but Coach Taylor was beaming. "Wilson brothers, that was impressive," he called out, checking his stopwatch. "Best time I've seen from new students in years." The twins had decided to try out for the track team, hoping to make some friends and find their place at Westlake High. Running had always come naturally to them. Their martial arts training had built up their endurance and speed. "Think we made the team." Anthony asked, catching his breath. Andrew grinned. Did you see the coach's face? Definitely. As they headed to the locker room, they noticed Ryan and his friends watching from the edge of the field. Ryan's eyes followed them, his expression dark. I don't like the way he's looking at us, Anthony muttered. Just keep walking, Andrew replied. The next morning, the twins arrived at school early to check the track team roster. Both their names were at the top of the list, but their moment of celebration was cut short when they went to their lockers. Someone had written on both their lockers in black marker. The words made Anthony's stomach turn. Andrew quickly pulled tissues from his backpack and wiped away the ugly words before more students could see. We should report this, Andrew said. To who? Anthony asked. We don't know who did it. But they both knew. The same group that had been making comments in the hallways, shouldering past them between classes, and sitting behind them in the cafeteria making jokes just loud enough to hear. In history class that afternoon, Lily passed them a note. Meet me in the library after school. I want to show you something. The twins found Lily at a back table, her laptop open. I've been keeping track, she said quietly. She showed them a document with dates and descriptions of incidents, all the times Ryan and his friends had targeted the twins or other students. Why are you doing this? Andrew asked. Lily's expression hardened. Last year, they drove my friend to transfer schools. Nobody did anything. I'm not letting that happen again. After leaving the library, the twins took the long way home, cutting through the neighborhood park. They needed time to think. What should we do? Anthony asked. If we tell Mom, she'll worry. Their mother had been coming home later and later, the stress of her new job evident in the dark circles under her eyes. The last thing they wanted was to add to her worries. Let's give it more time, Andrew decided. Maybe it will blow over. But it didn't blow over. The next day, Ryan knocked Andrew's lunch tray to the floor. Oops, he said with a smirk. When Andrew bent to pick it up, Ryan whispered something that made his friends laugh. In gym class, someone accidentally threw a basketball at Anthony's head. In chemistry, the twins found their lab materials missing. Small things, always just below the threshold, that would get the bullies in serious trouble. That evening, their mother finally noticed something was wrong. You're both so quiet lately, she said as they picked at their dinner. Is everything okay at school? It's fine, the twins answered in unison, then looked at each other. You know you can talk to me, right? She pressed. About anything. Andrew nodded. We know, Mom. Just adjusting still. After dinner, they retreated to the basement for their daily practice. As they moved through their forms, their movements became more intense, channels for the frustration they couldn't express elsewhere. We could end this, Anthony said, executing a perfect turning kick. One time in the parking lot, show them what we can do. And then what? Andrew countered, moving into a blocking position. Prove we're the violent ones they already think we are? Anthony stopped, dropping his stance. So we just take it? No, Andrew said firmly. But we're smarter than that. Remember what Grandpa always said. The strongest tree bends with the wind but doesn't break, they recited together. Later that night, Andrew lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. He could hear Anthony tossing and turning in the next room. The words on their lockers kept flashing in his mind. The whispers in the hallway, the looks in the cafeteria. Something had to give, but neither twin knew that the real test of their strength was still to come. The school bus rumbled down the highway toward the Natural History Museum. The junior class field trip had been planned months ago, long before Andrew and Anthony had arrived at Westlake High. The twins sat near the middle of the bus, Lily in the seat across from them. I've been to this museum 3 times, Lily told them. The dinosaur exhibit is amazing. Anthony nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. He could feel Ryan and his friends watching them from the back of the bus. For the past week, something had felt different. The usual comments and looks had been replaced with something more calculating, as if they were planning something. You okay? Andrew asked his brother quietly. Just thinking, Anthony replied. When they arrived at the museum, their history teacher, Mrs. Garcia, divided them into small groups. The twins ended up with Lily and 2 other students they barely knew. Stay together, Mrs. Garcia instructed. Meet back at the main entrance at 2 o'clock sharp. For the first hour, the trip was actually fun. The twins found themselves fascinated by the ancient artifacts and detailed exhibits. Even Anthony relaxed a little, forgetting about Ryan and his friends. "Check this out," Andrew called, pointing to a display of ancient warrior tools. These were used in martial arts training thousands of years ago. They were examining the display when Andrew noticed their group had drifted to another exhibit, leaving them momentarily alone. Then he felt it, that same prickle on the back of his neck that he'd felt on the bus. "We should find our group," he said to Anthony. They turned down a corridor that led to the Earth Science Wing, but instead of finding their classmates, they came face to face with Ryan and 3 of his friends. "Look who we found," Ryan said, his voice echoing in the empty hallway. "All alone." The twins instinctively moved closer together, a defensive habit from years of training. "We're just trying to find our group," Andrew said calmly. "Funny, so are we," Ryan replied, stepping closer. "Guess today's your lucky day." One of Ryan's friends moved behind them, blocking the way they had come. The twins were now surrounded in the narrow corridor. "What do you want, Ryan?" Anthony asked, his voice steady despite the tension building in his chest. Ryan's smile disappeared. "I want you to understand something. This school has a certain balance. People like you upset that balance." "People like us," Andrew repeated, though he knew exactly what Ryan meant. Ryan stepped even closer. "Don't play dumb. You know what you are. Coming here, showing off at track, thinking you're something special." "We're just students like you," Andrew said. "You're nothing like me," Ryan snapped. "And it's time you learned your place." The largest of Ryan's friends, a football player named Derek, shoved Andrew suddenly, making him stumble back against a display case. The glass rattled. Anthony felt a surge of anger, his hands automatically forming fists. 10 years of training had prepared him to respond to an attack. He could take all 4 of them if he had to. He knew exactly where to strike, how to move. But then he remembered their sensei's voice. A true warrior knows when not to fight. Instead, Anthony took a deep breath and helped his brother steady himself. "We don't want trouble," Anthony said. Ryan laughed. "Should have thought about that before you came here. Things are going to get real uncomfortable for you two if you don't get the message." "What's going on here?" They all turned to see a museum security guard at the end of the corridor. The man's eyes took in the scene, the twins backed against the display, Ryan and his friends surrounding them. "Just talking," Ryan said, his threatening demeanor instantly replaced with an innocent smile. "We got separated from our group." The security guard looked skeptical but nodded toward the main hall. "All students need to stay in the public areas. Your teacher is looking for you." As they walked back to the main area, Ryan brushed past Anthony and whispered, "This isn't over. After school tomorrow, behind the gym. Be there or we come find you." The rest of the field trip passed in a blur. The twins stayed close to their teacher and Lily, avoiding any more isolated areas. On the bus ride home, Lily noticed their silence. "Did something happen in the museum?" she asked. The twins exchanged a look. Should they tell her? Before they could answer, Anthony felt something in his jacket pocket. He pulled out a folded piece of paper that hadn't been there before. His blood ran cold as he read the threats written there, the words so ugly he couldn't show them to Andra. As the bus pulled into the school parking lot, both twins knew they had reached a turning point. They couldn't ignore this anymore. Tonight, they would have to tell their mother everything. Dr. Olivia Wilson sat at the kitchen table, the threatening note spread out before her. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice was steady when she finally spoke. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" The twins looked at each other, guilt written across their identical faces. "We didn't want to worry you," Andrew said. "You've been working so hard at the hospital." "And we thought we could handle it," Anthony added. Their mother closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, there was a fierce determination there that the twins recognized. It was the same look she had when she fought for her position as head surgeon. "First thing tomorrow morning, we're going to the principal," she said. And they did. Principal Davis listened as the twins described the months of bullying, with their mother occasionally filling in details from the note. He nodded, made some notes, and promised to look into the situation. "That's it?" Dr. Wilson asked. "My sons are being threatened, and you'll look into it." "Mrs. Wilson." "Dr. Wilson," she corrected firmly. "Dr. Wilson," the principal amended. We take allegations very seriously, but without witnesses or evidence beyond this note, which doesn't have a name on it. The meeting ended with vague promises of increased hallway monitoring and a general assembly about respect. That was useless, Anthony muttered as they left the office. In the hallway, Lali was waiting for them. How did it go? Andrew shook his head. About how we expected. I have something that might help, Lali said, looking around to make sure no one was listening. I've been collecting evidence, screenshots, recordings, dates, and times. I've got at least 20 incidents documented. Dr. Wilson looked at Lily with new appreciation. Would you be willing to share that with the school board? And possibly someone else? That afternoon, their mother made several phone calls, one to the school board president, who happened to be a patient of hers, another to a community organization that dealt with discrimination cases, a third to a lawyer friend from her old hospital. Mom's on the warpath, Andrew said as they watched her pace the living room, phone pressed to her ear. Good, Anthony replied, but that doesn't solve our problem for tomorrow. Ryan's threats still hung over them, behind the gym after school. If they didn't show up, Ryan and his friends would come find them, maybe at home. If they did show up, we go, Andrew decided. We face them. And if they attack us? Anthony asked. Then we do what we've been trained to do, Andrew said quietly. Defend ourselves, nothing more. The next day crawled by minute. The twins went to their classes as usual, ate lunch together, and tried to act normal. But every time they passed Ryan or his friends in the hallway, the looks they received made it clear. The bullies were looking forward to the after-school meeting. When the final bell rang, Lily caught up with them at their lockers. You're not really going, are you? She asked, having overheard Ryan talking about the planned confrontation. We have to, Andrew explained. Then I'm coming too, Lily insisted, pulling out her phone. Someone needs to document what happens. They tried to talk her out of it, but she wouldn't budge. As they walked toward the gym, other students seemed to sense something was happening. Small groups began following at a distance. Behind the gym was a small courtyard, hidden from the main parking lot by a row of trees. Ryan was already there with 7 of his friends, forming a loose semicircle. Didn't think you'd show, Ryan said, sounding almost impressed. What do you want, Brian? Andrew asked, his voice calm. I want you to understand how things work around here, Ryan replied. This can go 2 ways. Either you learn your place and stop showing off, or... He let the threat hang in the air. Or what? Anthony asked. One of Ryan's friends cracked his knuckles. Another picked up a stick from the ground, slapping it against his palm. We're not looking for trouble, Andrew said, using the same centered breathing his sensei had taught them for staying calm in dangerous situations. But we're not going to be pushed around either. Ryan's face darkened. Wrong answer. He stepped forward, fist already swinging toward Andrew's face. What happened next would change everything at Westlake High School. Ryan's fist cut through the air, heading straight for Andrew's face. Everyone watching expected to hear the sound of knuckles hitting flesh, expected to see Andrew stumble backward or fall. What they didn't expect was what actually happened. Andrew's hand moved with lightning speed, catching Ryan's fist inches from his face. For a split second, the entire courtyard went silent. Ryan's eyes widened in surprise. I don't want to fight you, Andrew said calmly, still holding Ryan's fist. Ryan yanked his hand away and stepped back, confusion flashing across his face before it hardened into anger again. Get them, he ordered his friends. 2 boys rushed forward, one heading for each twin. Anthony sidestepped his attacker with such smooth precision that the boy nearly fell face first onto the pavement. Andrew ducked under a wild swing, moving like water around his opponent. The crowd of students watching from the edges of the courtyard had grown. Several had their phones out, recording everything. Lily stood her ground, making sure to capture every moment. What's going on? Someone whispered. How are they doing that? The twins moved in perfect sync, their bodies reacting from years of training. They dodged, blocked, and redirected, but never once threw a punch of their own. Their faces showed intense concentration but no fear. Derek, the largest of Ryan's friends, charged at Anthony like a bull. Instead of moving away, Anthony stepped toward him, used Derek's momentum to gently redirect him, and sent him stumbling harmlessly past. "Fight back!" Ryan shouted, growing more frustrated by the second. But the twins were doing exactly what their sensei had taught them, using defensive techniques to neutralize threats without causing harm. Each time one of the bullies attacked, they found themselves blocked, deflected, or thrown off balance. "They haven't thrown a single punch," a girl in the crowd said in amazement. "Not one." Ryan's face twisted with rage. This wasn't going according to plan. The twins were supposed to be scared, supposed to be beaten down and humiliated. Instead, they looked completely in control, their movements precise and deliberate. "This is impossible," one of Ryan's friends panted, backing away after his third failed attempt to hit Andra. The crowd had begun to cheer for the twins, impressed by their skill and restraint. Phone cameras captured everything: the grace of their movements, the frustration of their attackers, the complete lack of aggression from the twins themselves. Ryan, seeing his friends backing away, reached into his pocket and pulled out a small knife. The blade caught the afternoon sunlight. "Let's see you dodge this," he snarled, lunging forward. The crowd gasped. Several people shouted warnings. But Anthony had already seen the knife. In one fluid motion, he caught Ryan's wrist, twisted it just enough to cause pain without injury, and applied pressure to a specific point. The knife dropped from Ryan's suddenly numb fingers, clattering harmlessly to the ground. Andra kicked the knife away, while Anthony maintained his hold on Ryan's wrist. The bully was effectively immobilized, unable to pull away without causing himself pain. "It's over," Anthony said quietly. "Enough." "What is going on here?" The assistant principal, Mrs. Winters, pushed through the crowd, followed by 2 security guards. Her eyes took in the scene: Ryan restrained by Anthony, the other bullies backing away, the twins standing unharmed. "They attacked us," Ryan started to say, but dozens of voices from the crowd immediately contradicted him. "We have it all on video," Lally said, stepping forward with her phone. "Everything." Mrs. Winters looked at the twins. "Release him," she told Anthony, who immediately let go of Ryan's wrist. "Everyone involved, come with me to the office. Now." As they walked toward the school building, whispers followed them. The secret was out. The quiet new students, the ones who kept to themselves, had just demonstrated skills that left everyone amazed. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" one student asked as they passed. Andor looked at his brother. "We didn't fight," he corrected. "That's the point." In the growing crowd, someone had already uploaded a video of the confrontation. By dinner time, it would have thousands of views. By morning, the whole town would know about the twins who had faced down 8 attackers without throwing a single punch. And everything at Westlake High was about to change. By the next morning, the video had spread beyond Westlake High. Local news sites picked it up, running headlines like, "High school students display remarkable restraint against bullies." Parents shared it in community groups, praising the twins' discipline while expressing shock at the bullying that had been happening under everyone's noses. Andra and Anthony arrived at school to find everything different. Students they'd never spoken to nodded in greeting. Teachers watched them with newfound respect. Even the principal, who had been so dismissive just days before, now seemed eager to talk with them. The school board called an emergency meeting, he told the twins and their mother in his office. "Ryan and the others have been suspended pending further investigation. We're implementing a new anti-bullying program immediately." Dr. Wilson fixed him with a steady gaze. "And what about all the reports that were ignored before this happened?" The principal had the decency to look embarrassed. "We're reviewing our reporting procedures as well." In the hallway after the meeting, Lily rushed up to them. "Have you seen the comments on the videos? Everyone wants to know where you learned to fight like that." "It's not fighting," Andrew explained. "It's self-defense." "Whatever you call it," she said, "half the school wants to learn it now." She wasn't exaggerating. Throughout the day, students approached the twins asking about their training. By lunchtime, the physical education teacher, Mr. Rivera, had pulled them aside. "I've been trying to start a self-defense club for years," he told them. "The school board finally approved it this morning. Would you two be interested in helping?" The twins looked at each other, having one of their silent conversations. "We'd need to ask our sensei," Anthony said finally. That evening, they called their old instructor in the city. Sensei Wong listened to their story, then laughed. "You have learned well," he said. "Your grandfather would be proud. You used your skills to protect, not to harm." "So you think we should help with the club?" Andrew asked. "I think you have found your purpose at this new school," the sensei replied. "Teaching is the best way to deepen your own understanding." 2 weeks later, the twins stood before 20 students in the gym. They wore their black belts for the first time at Westlake High. "Self-defense isn't about hurting others," Andrew began. "It's about protecting yourself while causing the least harm possible." "The first lesson isn't a punch or a kick," Anthony continued. "It's learning to stay calm under pressure." Among the students was Lily, of course, but also several others who had witnessed the confrontation. Even a few who had been standing with Ryan that day had signed up, perhaps seeking to understand what had happened. Meanwhile, the video had prompted other changes. The community organization their mother had contacted organized a forum on discrimination at the school. Parents who had never realized what their children faced joined the conversation. Teachers received training on recognizing and addressing bullying. Ryan and his closest friends didn't return to Westlake. They transferred to other schools after their suspensions ended. But some of the boys who had followed Ryan that day actually apologized to the twins. "I never thought about what I was doing," one admitted. "I just went along with it." At the end of the month, a reporter from the local newspaper visited the twins' self-defense class for a feature story. Afterward, she asked them what they hoped people would learn from their experience. Andrew thought for a moment. "Strength isn't about dominance," he said finally. "Real strength is having the power to hurt someone but choosing not to." Anthony nodded. "Our grandfather used to tell us that true victory isn't defeating your enemy, it's turning them into a friend." The reporter smiled. "Your grandfather sounds like a wise man." "He was," the twins said together. That night, they showed their mother the newspaper article. Dr. Wilson read it with tears in her eyes, then pulled her sons into a tight hug. "I'm so proud of you both," she whispered, "not just for what you did that day, but for what you're doing now." As winter turned to spring, the twins found themselves at the center of a growing community. The self-defense club expanded to include students from other schools. The twins made real friends who valued them for who they were. And when the next new student arrived at Westlake High, looking lost and alone on their first day, it was Andra and Anthony who were the first to welcome them. Sometimes, the twins still practiced alone in their basement, moving through the forms their grandfather had first taught them. But now they did so not out of isolation, but from choice, honoring the traditions that had given them not just the ability to defend themselves, but the wisdom to know when not to fight at all.